Let's see if this works. It says it's live. Okay, there's going to be a delay.
Are we live?
I don't know.
Are we on the air?
It says in the corner of my screen that we are.
I have no idea. The chat hasn't said anything about us being live yet, so that I don't know. I don't know what's
No,
happening.
it still says, please stand by starting soon
Okay.
on my thing.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
going to restart the chat.
At some point, I need to figure out how to use sounds from my computer on this, because if we can't make fart noises and toilet flushes, I don't know what the point of this is.
Hey, look. Oh, it is live.
Oh, it is live.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hello.
I guess it's working. All right. So, hi, Alex.
Hi, Patrick. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm not in San Francisco, and neither are you.
No, you're in Chicago.
I am in Chicago. Well, no, that's sort of a lie. It's
Oh, that's right. You're a
when people-
suburbs boy, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's like anything else. When you tell out-of-towners or people that aren't from the area where you're from, I'm just going to say Chicago. I'm not going to say, do you know what Arlington Heights and Mount Prospect are? Because
Right.
no one is going to know that.
It's not like San Francisco where you can say you're from the Bay Area and people will sort of understand that doesn't necessarily mean San Francisco.
Right. I guess that is the weird part about the Bay Area, is that it
Yeah.
encompasses more of that. I mean, I guess that's the equivalent of something like the Midwest, but that's awfully broad. That's a little
Yes.
bit more than just Chicago.
That's a whole region right there. That's like a big chunk of the country.
So for people that are watching, if this audio is out of sync, if this video looks terrible, that is because this doesn't have an official title, and we are just giving this a shot. For people that have tuned into Spooking with Scoops, as we've gone from the evolution of me running that on a MacBook Air to actually running that on a PC, I tend to have I like to just do things, and we'll just worry about figuring out the technical stuff later, because Alex and I, we are not video professionals. That is why we have people like Drew and Vinny who handle that stuff, and so when
We don't know what
left
we're doing.
Yeah, no, when you're left to our own devices, probably very simple things that are stuff that they worked out years ago, and we have to kind of figure out on our own. So absolutely, send us feedback about any sort of technical hiccups, and we'll try to address those. We're using this Google Hangout because this seemed like the easiest way to bring people in. It also creates an archive that we can put up on the site, and the plan is to try and put that up in video and audio format, and then to also do this a little bit earlier than we're doing it right now,
Right.
and maybe not have a vacuum sound in the back of me.
At some point,
now.
there will be construction outside my window because they decided that after leaving a backhoe out there for 2 weeks, today was the day they were going to start excavating the empty lot next to my office window. So there should be some fun noises coming from there.
Yeah, well, I'm just, having moved back in with my mom optionally,
Yes.
my own preference, there are things that come up that you just can't quite account for, or that you haven't accounted for, and that suddenly I need to be aware of them. People that watched Spooking with Scoops last week, I do that late at night. I try and wait till it's dark, and the whole idea is me trying to sort of get into it and try and scare myself. One way to have that not happen is to have a stream of my mom and her friends come through this back room of the house, flip on a bunch of porch lights, and hang out and drink wine on the patio. And my first instinct was hey, you guys should stop doing that. But then my second instinct was, this isn't my house. I probably should have warned someone and not kick everyone out just because I wasn't thinking about it.
That is the unfortunate reality of being in your parents' house, is that once you're an adult, you are a visitor from there on out. You no longer have any sort of command of that space.
I am not in a position to bitch about it, and so if there's a vacuum sound, well, I think life was just saying, well, we'll give Alex some construction sound, and then everything will balance out, and we call it a test, and then we don't have to worry or apologize for anything.
Yeah, this is the beauty of this, is that we actually kind of want this to fuck up a little bit, because then we'll know what the problems are, and we can work on them for next time. This will be great.
So the plan is, you're going to be in San Francisco next week, so
Yes.
we're not going to be doing this next week, and but we wanted to try and just get one of these out of the way, at least to get a sense of the format, see what people think of it. The plan is to do this, I don't know, at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff is kind of up in the air. But the idea being that we've known for years that Giant Bomb is a West Coast thing, and we don't start our workday awfully early. And so if things aren't prepared the day before that go up the morning after, it's not uncommon for there to be no content on the site till well past noon. And for people that are on the Midwest or East Coast, that's pretty late. And in addition to that, the Bombcast kind of does whatever it wants to do. There is a format, but anyone that listens to it knows that they don't cover a lot of the news that happens. It happens on a Tuesday, often recorded on a Monday. So a lot of things kind of slip through the cracks that don't get discussed and maybe sometimes come up on TNT and on Professional Fridays. But it seemed like something with Alex and I would be a good opportunity to sort of run down some of the headlines that don't come up on other parts of the site and don't even get written up on the site because we're pretty careful about what actually takes up a slot on the homepage. So the general idea is that, yeah, we're just going to kind of just run down some of the headlines and see where this takes us over about 30 minutes. So I've got a couple too, but
yeah, I got some too.
I know you said you had yours, so why don't I throw it to you?
Well, I think the first thing I'd love to talk to you about is the current status of the Phil Fish experience. You have a friendship with that guy. You have an actual relationship with him, and we all sort of know about what's been going on over the course of this past week with him. You know, him quitting Twitter, him having a gigantic, blow up with various journalist people, and then you wrote an article. It was Monday, right? Where you sort of talked a little bit about your own experiences with kind of dealing with shitbags on the internet and Phil's whole thing. The question I think I have remaining at this point is that, and you're maybe in a better position to answer this than other people who just sort of only know him through the internet, is that, like, how much of this do you think is actually really, truly genuine, and how much do you think it is, like, Phil just kind of doing whatever weird thing he feels like doing? Because I get the impression, especially with his whole Andy Kaufman kind of worship, that sometimes he's maybe putting on things a little bit just for the sake of, his online persona. But there's also probably a genuine aspect to it. I'm having a hard time parsing what's real and what's kind of not with him, and I feel like you might be in a better place to kind of understand that.
I think if people went back and watched the segment that we had him on during GDC this year, where that gives you a better sense of what it's like to actually just be around Phil, like when he's not on, or when he's not talking about his game, or when he's not using Twitter sometimes for the worst reasons. He's a really calm, chill dude that is extraordinarily passionate about games, can speak about them and all sorts of other subjects on a level that is just right above me. One of the video ideas, Phil came by the previous office, might have been for GDC, it might have been because he was just in town, just to hang out and grab a couple drinks, and him and Brad got into this extremely long, detailed discussion of, like, theoretical physics and quantum theory. Like, Brad.
I'm gonna go hang out with my dad.
Yeah, and like, it was extremely detailed. I could not follow anything they were talking about, but it was super fascinating because they were both able to sort of, like, talk on the same level as one another. And Vinny and I definitely had this idea of setting them up in a green screen with just, like, space behind them and just letting them have, like, a 45-minute conversation that had nothing to do with games and was all just talking about this extremely specific science stuff that Brad, spends all sorts of time sort of, like, reading into on his own time. And he tries to bring it up with us, but it all just, like I said, kind of goes right over our heads. And so I don't know. Even as someone that has sort of a relationship with Phil outside of games and, like, the games press, he told me straight up, the game's canceled, and I actually do take him at his word at that. I do think that Fez 2 currently, as it stands, he is not working on. I don't think that it will remain that way, but that's, like I mentioned in my piece, that's not inside information. That's just my gut feeling based on the way he would talk about that universe and the other plans he had for it. A lot of that was years ago. I have no idea what he's up to with Fez 2, but I don't know. That guy's just as complex and ready to sort of lose it when you're hanging out with him completely disconnected from all of this stuff, and sometimes that means it can be kind of a challenge, but he is, one of those really passionate guys that just, he really knows his shit, and it would be awfully tragic if we lost him. But I also, I definitely don't blame people for sometimes getting really agitated with him. I just, he throws out vitriol and people throw it right back. But
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this in a Tumblr answer that someone asked, was that one of the key differences is that by and large when and this isn't always the case, Phil has done like very direct vitriol in the past, but by and large when he's just sort of like spouting on Twitter and other places, it's kind of just general. It's sort of a mass acid spray, whereas all the stuff that comes to him is directed completely at him. Like there is no mistaking where that is going, and that's a very different experience that I try to speak to a little bit in that story. I wish everything that took me 30 minutes to write got us that much of a reaction.
I just bring up the Phil thing because I saw today, like, he actually posted something to his Twitter feed. It was just like a weird Vine video of like two like weird sticky action figure dudes like kind of coming apart, and I have no idea what the symbolism of that is. I'm maybe it's nothing at all, but it just seems like, I think that every time Phil Fish quits Twitter, it is very deliberate. I think that there is always like there's some kind of machination going on back there, whereas he is trying to make some kind of point. What that point is maybe is obfuscated to the point of any of us really understanding where he's coming from or what he's doing. But I mean, as someone who allegedly made him quit Twitter before, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know how to deal with
I
any
forgot
of this.
about that.
I don't even think I did it. I still don't think that I'm responsible for that whatsoever. But that said, when I see someone kind of, going to these lengths and, like you said, just kind of like, shotgunning everywhere, whatever is on his mind, and, kind of cultivating this sort of like aggro personality on Twitter, and then these sorts of things go where, all of a sudden now we're supposed to kind of feel sympathetic for him. It's just really hard for me to follow, and it's really hard for me to stay engaged with, because I like the guy in principle, and I like Fez, and I like, theoretically what he's doing, but I have a very short tolerance for people who go out of their way to make their personality extremely obvious and extremely in the limelight, and then immediately recoil and get really upset when people pay attention to them for that personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's a completely fair criticism for how he's handled himself, especially in regards to social media and Twitter specifically. And if I had to wager a larger guess, I think the way Phil talks about his stuff, he does have sort of a grand plan for how he wants to execute things, but sort of the day-to-day how that plays out, I think that is less planned than people might think.
Sure.
And that a lot of those outbursts are, pretty heartfelt, even if there's a lot of venom kind of mixed in with that.
But you do think Fez 2 is going to come along at some point?
I think so. I don't.
Yeah.
I'd say I would not. I think Fez 2 will still be a thing. I will hedge that bet and say I am fully confident that he will come back to video games. But again, the way he talked about that universe in the past, there's more that he wants to do there, and I would love to play a Fez 2, because my guess is it would very deliberately be one of those things that tries to play on your expectations in really fun and surprising ways. And Fez was one of my favorite games of last year, and I think it would be a shame to not get another one of those. But also, we got that one, so I mean, I guess if it's a one and done, Fez is an awfully great way to go out with the only thing that you made.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a bad mic drop. I'm not saying it's a bad mic drop. I'm just, I feel like with him going to the trouble of actually announcing Fez 2 and theoretically Fez 2 having a fair amount of work already done with it, I'm betting at some point it will come out. He will probably be weird and sneaky and do some sort of, grand gesture around it, but I think it's going to come back.
Yeah. So I think we have probably devoted enough
Yes.
time.
I'm throwing it back to you.
As has the rest of the internet to Phil Fish. I tried to load up these things on my iPad because I realized if I tried to load up things on my computer, I'd be doing a lot of pointing my head. Let's see.
Sure.
Oh, so I wanted to ask you, because I just
Yes.
spent a bunch of time yapping. So you just met with Ken Levine
I
and
did.
some other guy whose name I cannot
Forrest
remember.
something. I can never remember his last name, but so that first name's Forrest. I know that.
Two chief members of the BioShock Infinite team, and I wanted you to relay the story of the audio recorders that you were texting me about as all of this stuff was, as you were at Irrational and seeing
Oh,
stuff.
that, yeah. So okay. So this is not me trying to bitch about this necessarily, but
It's just an interesting fact, I think, that
so an interesting fact of doing interviews and doing junket type stuff is that when you do these sorts of things in like private rooms and whatever, usually you are being recorded as well. PR people will have either a camera set up somewhere or a digital recorder somewhere. Because they like to take notes on that stuff. They like to sort of, have that like just a record of everyone who came in and talked to, whoever it was and all that sort of stuff. The weird thing about this one is when I went in and talked to Ken, the digital recorders were hidden away from anyone's view. Like I walked in, I couldn't see anything, and I was in the room like by myself for like 10 minutes waiting for things to happen. So I was just walking around. They had the digital recorders off in this weird corner of the room by the minibar, sort of covered over by plastic and like turned over so you couldn't see the recording lights. Like they were kind of trying to be sly and sneaky about it. And I asked him, I was like, why are you doing that? I know this is what you guys do. Like this is not in any way something you have to be clandestine about whatsoever. Like we know this is kind of goes part and parcel with the whole thing. And they had no answer. Like they didn't really have it. It's like, no, it was just, we just are doing this because, we're not trying to, it's like, don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about this. But it does make me wonder, like, why they thought they would have to be sneaky about that. Like, who's going to freak out about that?
yeah, that's just really strange because oftentimes the way it plays out, at least in my experience, is oftentimes, especially when you're talking to executives or noted figures that will oftentimes say, not necessarily outrageous, but will give you quotes that will often become headlines all on their own.
Yeah.
Less so with the kind of stuff we do, certainly more so with some of the other websites out there and the way they write their stories. They're taking notes not because they necessarily want like a complete transcript of what happened, but
Right.
oftentimes so that they know the topics and the questions you asked and the answers that came out, basically so they can prepare themselves for, okay, he seemed to make a big deal of this. This is probably going to be the focus of his story or a headline. So we can anticipate this. We can be ready with some sort of statement if need be. And that makes total sense. Like
Yeah.
that is a PR strategy that I would employ if I was in the same position. But I just thought it was funny, given that how common that is. I don't even think about it
Yeah.
anymore. That there's usually just someone, a PR
It's usually
person,
like right there on
clacking
the
away.
table in front of you, or
Right.
the camera's like in the room where you can see it, whatever, and I just thought it was like really weird that they did that. But other than that, I had no problem with that trip. I mean, they sent us out there. They showed us the Clash in the Clouds DLC, which we have a quick look up of today because they're like, hey, so here's our first DLC and it's coming out tomorrow because that is apparently the trend now. Is that whenever the first DLC comes along for some big game, it's always like, and it's out today. It's like they all saw that one, what was it, the Sega Saturn press conference from E3 however
Right.
many years ago, and it's like, and it's in stores now. I hate that. I know that they're trying to do like a big surprise and they're like trying to, get everyone psyched up all of a sudden, but it's like, give us a week. Give us a little time to sort of write something or do something or get some prep time on this. Like tomorrow is not very much time for us to sort of prepare anything, for your content.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is from their perspective, they knew that had they just announced the Clash in the Clouds DLC, there'd be a lot of pretty rightful, I think, bitching
Yeah.
and moaning about the first delivery of Season Pass content,
It's
which
not
people paid
great.
for months ago.
Yeah.
Well, not even that it's not even that great, but that it's not story based, which I think that was I think implicit and in many ways explicit in when they described what that Season Pass
Right.
was going to be. So I think they dropped that, so it's like, hey, here's content, and then also here's the thing you really want, and it's
Right.
coming later.
They
but-
only showed us that trailer of. They didn't like they had nothing else there for it, like other than that trailer that we put up on the site. Like, I have the interview up on the site with Ken where he talks a little bit more in depth about it, but the way he described it made it sound like, and also the way Forrest described it was that like as soon as they were done with Infinite, in principle, they just decided, okay, what's the thing we can do quickly? and then what's the longer term, content that we want to spend more time on. And it sounds like Clash in the Clouds was the thing. It was like, okay, what can we get out in a few months? Because literally that dude said, like, as soon as I was done with my last bug, I just started typing in ideas for a game, and then we started working on it like a week later. So that Clash in the Clouds sounds like it came together pretty quickly. And not to say that it's not polished, but I think conceptually it shows a little bit.
So you had a chance to talk to Forrest and Ken about is it Beneath This? What's the other DLC
Ken,
called?
like Forrest, it wasn't really on Burial at Sea at all. That seems like that's Ken's project primarily.
So for people that haven't listened to the interview, like, what sort of sense did you what did you guys talk about? Like, what was your takeaway from the time you got a chance to chat with him about?
It was interesting because he didn't want to get any real serious details about it, because obviously it's a very story-heavy piece of content, and it's he's very anti-spoiler. Like, I asked him a little bit, like, what is sort of the nature of Booker and Elizabeth's relationship in this version of what's going on. He didn't really want to divulge much about that. Basically, what he said was, he had a desire to revisit Rapture, but he didn't really want to just do it in the sense of, like, making another BioShock game, or just doing it, like another, because they've already done the ruined Rapture thing twice now. They did it once, and then the Marin guys did it. So, there's always been, I guess, this kind of latent desire in the audience to see what Rapture looked like when it was still kind of a thriving community and ecosystem. And he loves noir stuff, he loves survival horror stuff, and he thought this would be like a good way for them to kind of take those characters, take that Rapture setting, and do something kind of different with it. And it does look really interesting. I mean, I guess the first episode you play as Booker primarily, as a private detective in Rapture, and then the second episode is all Elizabeth, I believe, where you play as her, and it's much more survival horror, it's much less focused on any kind of combat whatsoever. But he didn't, like I said, that was about as far and as detailed as he wanted to get about it. Stuff going on in the background, it happens.
Yeah, there's a phone call. I don't know. I unplugged it 2 days ago.
If only we could take phone calls here, but we can't. That's too bad.
But the phone has its own battery.
Yeah.
And so it's just this stalemate between me and the phone. And you can't, like, remove the battery. I don't know what kind of phone it is, but it's just...
Yeah.
So it's a stalemate between me and this internal battery.
Oh.
I want you to... So every morning I wake up and I look at it, and I see, like, a bar has gone down, but it hasn't died yet. So I'm just slowly waiting for this landline.
You're just... It's like a death that you know is coming, and you want to come, but it just won't, and it's just like, ah!
Yeah, it's very tragic. Let's see, what do you got on your end? Got anything else interesting?
So we got some Nintendo news today, or maybe late yesterday. I don't really remember when this came out, but we now know how Nintendo's Q1 was. It was mixed. On the Wii U side, they only sold 160,000 units in Q1. 159,999 of which I did not buy.
But you got one.
I did get one. I finally got one. I got one. I managed to get a premium unit with the Zombie U stuff for cheaper than they were selling it. So
someone was just dumping it off on the side of the street.
Yeah, I got it for like $300 when I think that unit goes for like way more with the Zombie U bundle. So I decided to grab it. It's fine. Whatever. I totally understand why no one's buying it, but I kind of dig it on some weird level. And on the other side of things, the 3DS is, sold 1.4 million units and 11 million software copies. So there is this strange balance here where it almost seems like, hey, maybe Nintendo's handheld business is doing really well. Maybe its console business is not doing so well. What do you think about that, Patrick?
Well, I think it's not surprising. I feel like that's, indicative of sort of like the gut reaction from consumers as well. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time playing games on my 3DS. I am genuinely surprised at how big the reaction has been to Animal Crossing, a game that I haven't gotten super deep into. I've been kind of checking it a little bit, but I've kind of been playing some other games. But I mean, less so now. But like over the past month, that game has just completely taken over like everyone I know on Twitter. Like people that have played that game in the past, people that have not played an Animal Crossing game before. For a game that doesn't seem all that different from the ones that came before it. Was genuinely shocked at how much that was kind of a shot in the arm for conversation about Nintendo that didn't revolve around sales units and whether they should go third party and put their games on iOS and all that stuff. And I don't know. I mean, Nintendo's a weird company. Like, I mean, I think they made money this quarter, so even though Wii U sales are not stellar, and that Wii outpaced Wii U, you know, the big kind of gamble they took with 3DS of trying to just kind of put an adrenaline shot into that machine paid off, and it seems most likely that that's going to be enough to sort of get them through this generation, even if they end up hobbling through it overall. And so I'm more curious just to see what that balance is between the 3DS and Wii U, and whether they really think they can turn the Wii U around in a notable way that they have with the 3DS, and so that they decide to put a lot of really premier software behind it, or if they just say, look, maybe we put out the games that people want for Wii U, we'll kind of checkbox everything, and they'll get that stuff, but we're going to put a lot of our time and energy and R&D into the 3DS because we're making money hand over fist on that one, and it's successful. Like they still have to earn it, and they got to still keep rolling that ball, but the ball's rolling in the right direction, whereas with the Wii U, they have a much steeper hill to climb.
Yeah, and my take on it is that Q1 was going to be this no matter what. There's not really any games that have come out during this period, with the exception of like Game & Wario and Earthbound. Like this has been a dead period for the Wii U. Q2 is probably not going to be. I mean, that's around the time Pikmin will come out, and a couple of things will start coming out. But we're really not going to know what the trend for that thing is until like Q3, Q4. Once the holiday comes through, once the new consoles come through, we'll get a realistic picture of how the hell that thing's going to fare when up against the competition of what the other guys are really doing. So this is no surprise. It sucks for them, but that's just the way things have been trending until they actually put out some damn games for the thing that people want to buy. The Marios, the Mario Karts, the Zeldas, what have you. This is not going to change one bit.
They do seem to be trying to adopt, with the exception of an ambassador program, which I'm surprised they haven't just co-opted that, because I thought that was extremely successful. I don't know how much that translated into literal sales of the 3DS, but in terms of hearts and minds and endearing people to the platform, especially for people that felt like, well, we're your hardcore, we bought into this early, we know that it was going to be bumpy in that first year, but I think Wii U has been even more of a desert than other platforms have in the past, and I know that Iwata apologizes for that every single time and claims it's going to be better, but at least with the 3DS they said, well, look, we've got this enormous back catalog, we have a way of solving this, we'll just give this stuff away for free and hopefully make those people feel a little bit better about their purchase. And surprised they have not done something like that with Wii U. I'm not surprised they're charging a premium for a game like Earthbound. I think they're in a position to sort of, they've waited long enough, they can try and extract as much of that as they can, and it's also puts fans in a position to kind of put their money where their mouth is. But they do seem to be trying to specifically adopt the sort of, I think they called it Rolling Thunder strategy of 3DS, where they had sort of a major game every month, starting in the late summer period and running through the winter. And I think we're in a position with that for Wii U, where we've got Pikmin 3 in August for the US. It's already out in other territories. Then Wonderful 101 comes in September. Mario Kart is October.
Mario
November.
Kart is out this holiday. Bayonetta 2 is, I believe, out this holiday.
Yeah, Super Mario 3D Land is December.
Yeah.
So I think they, I have to look at the actual schedule, but it seems like they're trying to set themselves up for, you're going to have a big reason to, plop down $60 for a brand new game on Wii U. Whether that's enough, I don't know, but maybe that's at least buys them some time to maybe set the machine up in a more favorable scenario. But yeah, buzz is still pretty bad, and although I think people seem to genuinely like Pikmin 3 quite a bit, at least from what I've been hearing about it, it's not, it's not blowing anyone away. It's another solid Pikmin game, and that's
my worry. Like, that is my worry for this stuff, because with the exception, not even with the exception, because Super Mario 3D Land, it's an easy sell because it has, Super Mario on the box, therefore it is, at least attractive to a set number of people. But Pikmin has never been, like, at least in my recollection, a top system seller. It's like, that's not a series that, like, there's a lot of people who love it, and rightfully so. But that's not a game that people are going to run out and buy a Wii U for necessarily.
Yeah.
Wonderful 101, I think, is the same situation. Bayonetta 2, maybe, I don't know, there's a certain subset of people that would, because, Bayonetta, apparently Bayonetta and Mario Kart are early 2014.
All right, well,
the chat, so there you go.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah to that, but...
So maybe not Rolling Thunder.
But even that's still the point. It's not like, those big showy Nintendo franchises sell systems. Occasionally a third party or, other developer game will sell systems, but it's like Wonderful 101, most people don't even know what the fuck that game is. I barely understand what that game is, and I've played it multiple times. It's fun, I think, but I don't know how you sell that game to an audience that is already not buying your system,
I think they're in... I really enjoyed the bits I played of Wonderful 101. I think it's got a great sense of style, which is, no surprise from the fact, that it's coming from Platinum and coming from Kamiya, but it also looks awfully similar to Pikmin.
Yeah.
It definitely seems to have a similar gameplay style, and so to have those games situated right next to each other, I think is unfortunately probably going to hurt Wonderful 101 a whole lot more than it's going to hurt Pikmin, and that's too bad because third-party support, I know Nintendo is funding and publishing that, but getting external developers to create content for Wii U is not exactly a common thing right now, and so it'll be too bad if that becomes one of the early forgotten gems of that machine simply because a similar game came out so soon.
Yeah. All right, what do you got, Patrick? Throw one at me.
All right. We'll close on one more that I threw at you, and then I think maybe we'll...
Why don't we do a couple of rapid-fire ones after that, like one-sentence reactions?
I think I want to throw to the chat a little bit as
chat,
well.
Yeah.
And we'll get some questions from there, so people can point those at me, and I'll pull some out in a little bit. So the one I want to throw at you because although I follow NFL football, I do not follow college football, and I keep seeing all these headlines about the NCAA and a lawsuit and EA, and then seeing headlines on ESPN about people being hypercritical about the NCAA in general. And
right.
I don't know if you can give sort of like a quick analysis or like for the non-sports people around us, but it sounded pretty fascinating.
Yeah, if you want the real quick gist of it, you should go back and watch that South Park episode from like a year and a half ago where they did the EA Sports parody where Peter Moore was this evil impresario of video games profiting off college athletes and all that stuff. Basically, the entire crux is a lot of people are upset that the NCAA games, without actually using exact player likenesses and stats and all that stuff, are still technically profiting off of players who can't get paid for it whatsoever. This has been an ongoing, long-term thing that people have complained about for a long time. And I don't really know the whole crux of this exact lawsuit that EA and the NCAA and the College Licensing Corporation or whatever they are. I don't know the whole thing because I don't really understand the law very well. That said, basically what it looks like right now is the NCAA has completely washed its hands of video games because it is trying to distance itself as far as fucking possible from any of this stuff. That does not preclude EA from being able to put out a college football game next year that just does not say NCAA anywhere because the college licensing company is the one that gives them the rights to the teams and the logos and all that stuff. So they can still do that.
Can they still call it? Will it not be called NCAA?
It just can't be called NCAA. Like it could be EA. It could be EA College Football 2015 or whatever, but they cannot be NCAA football.
Weird.
So that is literally all they have lost in all of this. And the weirdness around all of this is that I don't know how that actually impacts any of this. Like, I don't think the NCAA absolves itself in any way by making this move. EA apparently filed a motion to try and dismiss the entire suit before it actually goes to class action status. My understanding of how college sports works is about, like, that much, but what I will say is that it sounds like everybody is just trying to get the fuck out of this thing as quickly as they can, and I don't know if it's going to work. So, there you go. That's the gist of it, I think.
All right. Well, hopefully that was accurate.
Yes, I think.
If not, I'm not sure there's anyone on Giant Bomb that's going to correct us.
No.
That never happens.
All right, then. Just a couple of other headlines that I dug up, and I'm just, we can throw some very quick thoughts on that. Bully trademark renewed. Is there a new game coming? What do you think?
Man, I hope so. The idea of Bully the College Years is still an idea that gets me really excited. I don't know if that's the one that they'll follow through with, but Bully is absolutely not only my favorite Rockstar game, but is absolutely one of my favorite games
Yeah.
ever. It's we constantly, or at least I constantly, get sort of bored about the very traditional settings that games kind of place themselves in, and high school seems like a really difficult one to pull off, and somehow they managed to do it, and it was really interesting. The mini games were pretty terrible, but in terms of telling a story in a high school setting, man, I would love to see, even if they just revisit high school, like whatever it is, like I would just love to see another bullet game. So I'm crossing my fingers.
Cool. Producer on whatever the next Mortal Kombat movie thing says that the new Mortal Kombat game is currently in development. Is this surprising? No, not really.
No.
But no, because of course that's what they started working on after they finished Injustice. Why not? But I imagine that game's probably at least a couple years away, right?
Yeah, I imagine that's a next gen product, and I think I saw Jeff mention, I think it might have been on his Tumblr. The most interesting thing is going to be see they kind of wrung a whole lot out of the nostalgia for those first 3 games, and especially the first 2 in terms of the characters they featured and the storyline. Are they really going to start putting like Mortal Kombat 4 characters in there? Like that seems like that would be unlikely.
Hope not.
Like,
I really hope not.
They're going to put in characters from the multiple PS2, Xbox era games whose names I cannot remember at all. I didn't even play those games. I mean, I heard they were okay, but once that series went 3D, I sort of kind of got disinterested. But I don't know. I mean, there'll be another one. I bet it'll look gorgeous, and I'll play it for the story mode, if nothing else.
Cool. Last one. Tearaway has been delayed a month. How sad are you right now?
That's a bummer. But at least it's only October to November, right?
Yeah, it's literally 1 month. So now it's coming out on a Friday or whatever, and it'll be out in November. Right in the time when everyone will be buying literally everything but Vita games.
Yeah, so that part definitely sucks because you're going to have the momentum of PS4, Xbox One, whatever push Nintendo's giving to Wii U. Basically just money is going to be flying in all sorts of places other than a original PlayStation Vita game, and that's really too bad. So I hope it doesn't. It's going to get lost in the shuffle. That seems inevitable with the November game.
That game is great. I played that demo twice at E3. Like the same demo, I played it twice because I liked it so much. I really, really hope that game doesn't just get the shaft.
It was one of those games that at E3 people kind of always ask you, hey, I've got an hour. What should I go check out? And Tearaway was one where they had like 20 kiosks set up. There was never a wait.
Nope.
You could check out the game immediately, and it was absolutely my favorite game that I played at the show. Hopefully some momentum can build for that game, and maybe Sony has a plan for it that we're not aware of. But it would be too bad because everything about that game is
no, they fucking don't. Cool. They don't have a plan. They don't have a plan for anything for the Vita. The Vita is just them fucking throwing shit at a wall and hoping to God something sticks.
Well, whatever. Tearaway will become a bonus in the PlayStation Plus experience sometime in 2014 probably. So
you mean January 2014?
Yeah. So one way or the other, hopefully people will get a chance to play it. But let's see. Let
me take some questions from the chat. Maybe someday we'll be able to take like phone calls and do other cool shit. But we're not there yet, folks. And and for those who have been asking about the whole soundboard thing, I would love to have fart sounds and toilet flushes and all that shit. I haven't figured out how any of that shit works. Like, I can't even make like sounds on my computer play over this yet. So when we get there, we'll get there.
There are apps. I have. Let's see. What I am. Oh, I just clicked on something.
Oh no! Look at you!
Look at me.
Oh, see now this is the giant bomb way.
Look! Oh, I look more like a clown than I already do.
This is so wonderfully. See, this is great. I love this.
So there are. Oh, that's terrifying. I don't like Detective Clown. So there are like these weird apps and stuff like that allow you to do strange things with Google Hangout. But this is our first time messing around with it. So.
We will experiment more as time goes on.
Here's one for you because you put up this trailer.
Okay.
So that Aisha Tyler in Watch Dogs thing was weird, right?
Yeah.
Ask Zaffers.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that. So here's the fun thing about that video is that they sent it over yesterday. They were adamant to be put behind an age gate, as they often are, even though nothing happens in it. It was 1.5 gigs HD. That took me 2 hours to upload that thing from my internet. It is less than a minute long, makes no fucking sense, and I don't think actually effectively promotes Watch Dogs in any meaningful way. So
Well, it
I
was
have no idea what's up
strange.
with that.
It was super strange because if the email they sent along, like we get these standard email blasts that have links to the. Sometimes they have the YouTube link, and then they have like a link to download like the higher res version, because when you rip it from YouTube, it's already been compressed. But like, I guess this was just pulled out of their Comic-Con panel. So
Sure.
I maybe I like Ish Tyler. I love Archer.
Yeah, she's a funny
and
lady.
she's a really funny lady. So I don't know. Maybe in context, this played a lot better. Like maybe
Yeah.
she set up the bit, but for them to just distribute this by itself, I don't. I
I
thought
think
the
that was a
game.
mistake.
The
I think
game
that
didn't.
needed some kind of intro or something. Just something
Yeah.
to set it up.
And the game didn't look that great. I don't know which version of the game they were showing, but it. When they've shown that at E3 and other, obviously they're usually showing like the high-end PC version. The game didn't look that great in that.
That's
bit.
probably what that game's going to look like on like 360 and PS3, I'm guessing. What else you got?
Let's see.
Oh, iced coffee, you're my only friend.
Is it warm out by you?
Yeah, I mean it's not devil hot like it has been earlier this month, but doesn't matter. Until it starts getting cold, I drink iced coffee exclusively.
So this is a good question for you because you just got a Wii U. Blargo asks, do you think people are still confused about what the Wii U is? I mean, sort of
Yes.
the mass populace.
Yes.
I'm curious, I don't know how familiar. I mean, your girlfriend knows what you do for a living, but
Yes.
when you've shown other people what this thing is, what is the general response?
So, yeah, I've had to explain to my parents what the Wii U is multiple times because I've tried to explain to them, yeah, Nintendo has a new thing, and they're just, my dad doesn't know anything about video games, but he was able to figure out all the Xbox One, controversy shit on his own. He still does not understand what the Wii U is, no matter how many times I describe it to him. And, it's they've said out loud that the branding issue is an issue, and they have thus far made no meaningful attempts to actually fix that. So, I mean, you go into a store, you talk to GameStop employees, they're always like, yeah, people still have no idea what the fuck this thing is. They're like, oh, is that like an add-on for the Wii that I have? And it doesn't seem like whatever the hell Nintendo does, no one's getting that message, or at least people just don't seem to care. It's like they don't care to know, which is maybe the bigger problem right now. So, yeah.
Cal33135. Yes. What do you guys think about Batman's newly announced multiplayer? Which I think that just happened this morning.
Yeah, they just
Timely.
put the stuff up for that today, I think. I don't really know what it's about. Tell me more.
Well, the little bit I saw, actually, the part that was intriguing to me is that Splash Damage is making it.
Okay.
So,
All right.
the guys behind Brink, right? That's right, Brink.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And I'm forgetting that other. They did something. The multiplayer game, a Quake multiplayer.
We have
enemy,
a website
Quake
about video games.
Quake Enemy Territories. That sounds like a game.
I'm just going to look this up real quick on giantbomb.com, which is a wiki about video games.
So it sounds like it's objective based. So you're either playing as like the Joker's thugs, or you are playing as Batman and Robin. So I think that means it might be 2-on-2. I'm not totally clear on the details of that, but I think that could be, I guess, interesting.
Yeah.
But I wonder
it's-
how the
it's-
combat works if there are 4 players, and what happens when you're actually facing off against another human opponent. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding how the multiplayer works, and maybe it is just like sort of like wave-based survival
Yeah.
as opposed to 4-on-4.
I mean, sure, that could be fun. I at this point, multiplayer is sort of being kind of sandwiched into traditionally single-player games is de rigueur. It's what everyone kind of does, and sometimes it works out really well, like The Last of Us. You don't expect that shit to be good, but it actually is really, really good. And most times it's not. So at this point, I have no beef with people putting it in. If it doesn't work, it's fine, as long as the single player is still good. I'm primarily a single player kind of player of games anyway, so it is what it is. Sure, why not? This is basically my reaction to that.
And when I heard the news that Splash Damage was doing it, it actually sort of already deflects the initial criticism that people tend to have of news like this, which is, well, it's really unfortunate that you're taking away resources from the single player campaign, which is ostensibly for a lot of people, like you said, and it's true for me. That's what I'm kind of coming to the game for. So by assigning this to a different studio, it's sort of like no harm, no foul. If it turns out great, then that's a wonderful add-on for the game that people that dig it are going to enjoy it. That's great. But it also has not taken any resources away from WB Montreal, who is building out the single player portion of that game that we're all there for. So I don't know. It seems like one of those things that if it turns out great, great. If not, then it will be no great loss, and people will quickly forget that Batman tried to incorporate multiplayer in the first place. But
it's for the best that they're upfront about this, because if they're not, then you end up in a situation like Aliens: Colonial Marines, where it's like people are finding out about other developers working on it after the fact, and it just becomes a whole clusterfuck.
Yeah, and what it does make me curious about is this is the first one that Rocksteady is not developing. What does that mean going forward? Because the rumor is based on was it Kevin Conroy, I think, is the voice actor. He's not doing Batman this time. I think Troy Baker is doing Batman this time.
Because Troy Baker's and everything.
And then Kevin Conroy said that, I'm still doing Batman. I'm doing the next Batman game, implying that Rocksteady is working on yet another one of these. But I wonder what happens if the multiplayer in this, turns out pretty well and people like it. Does that mean that suddenly Rocksteady is sort of saddled with also having to build that, or if Splash Damage kind of comes along for the ride going forward in the franchise? It definitely creates a weird scenario for that to be introduced on sort of, I don't want to call AW Montreal the B team, but until they've proven themselves, they are sort of like the Treyarch, where they kind of have to step up and prove that they're capable of producing something as good as what Rocksteady has done in the past.
I remember when Treyarch was making NHL 2K games. That still weirds me out that they are now like this big deal with this multi-million selling dollar franchise, because when I was a tester of video games, I worked at 2K Sports, and I remember them, us constantly being pissed off because those games were always buggy as shit. And it's just weird to see how far that studio has come. Just every time everyone brings up Treyarch, I have these weird memory flashbacks of us just going this game is broken. This game is broken. This is a hockey game, and they can't make a fucking hockey game. What is going on?
So I think we'll leave on this last one, which is actually about something that you recently did. Mento, I'm going to sort of paraphrase, but basically asked, he watched your Super Punch-Out, Punch-Out Bombastica that you did.
Punch-Out, get it right.
So that's separate Bombastica. And he's kind of looking into maybe trying to do some of that on his own. He was sort of curious, because I think the process is different for everybody else. Do you do a lot of preparation for that, or do you just sort of boot up the game and kind of just go for it?
It really depends on the game. In the case of Punch-Out, I played so much of that as a kid and over the years that I just decided to jump right back in, which was also sort of on purpose because I wanted to see how far I could get without actually really practicing. Most games, if I haven't played it in a while, if I don't really remember stuff, usually what I will do is I will play through a couple of things a couple of times just to kind of get a feel for it and just sort of, try and stoke some memories that I might have about stuff. Like when I did that WCW versus NWO Revenge one, I probably spent a solid 3 hours just going through and playing stuff and just reminding myself how it all worked and all that shit. And yeah, it was... It really depends on the game for me, and I think that any approach is totally fine, as long as you feel comfortable playing it. The thing that always trips me up is talking while trying to play, and that's not exclusive, obviously, to Bombastic. That's any video we do on the site where we have to play games and talk. I've never been good at that. It makes me really uncomfortable, and I'm just constantly am I saying enough? Am I playing right? What am I doing?
It's definitely a skill. It's even if you start really bad at it and just become moderately bad at it, just doing it, listening to yourself, trying to find ways to sort of get rid of the weird things you say, trying to, rather than say just pause and wait till your next thought, which I'm still bad at, but it's one of those things that it's like a muscle. You just you have to work at it, and then at some point you will get better at it, or at least as good as you're going to get, or at least to a place where you feel more comfortable doing it and it doesn't cause you as much anxiety. Because I know that when I go away from it for a couple of weeks and then suddenly have to dive into it, like when I did the first ones from out here from my computer, it was really stressful, even though it's I've been doing this for years, done this a million times before, but it's just, especially doing it by yourself when you don't have someone to sort of play off of, those can be stressful, especially if you're in the middle of, because the way that give and take usually works when we've done quick looks in the office and stuff like that, is when you're in a moment where, hey, I need to shut the fuck up and I need to play the game, someone else can step up and know that and
Right.
start picking up the conversation for you. So, yeah, I mean, just like anything else, I think my advice would just be just do it and then watch it and cringe about it and
Yeah.
try and take notes on what you can do the next time, because you do want a mix of surprise at what's happening in the game and surprise that comes out of how you play and how you screw up, and finding ways to roll with when things go wrong is probably the most valuable lesson you can get as you kind of do that stuff over and over again.
And don't be afraid to do multiple takes, because I mean, some of those videos, like the Punch-Out one, I did pretty much in one take, except for the part where I skipped ahead to play Mike Tyson. Some of those other videos I've done, like I did them like 10 times, because either I would just completely lose my shit, I would forget something, or some weird audio issue would crop up that I wouldn't realize was happening at the time, and I would have to redo everything. I hate that. It drives me absolutely insane when I have to do it over again, but it's a necessary evil. Sometimes it's best to just go for it again, take a 5-minute break and then just try for it again. Don't be afraid to keep going.
Cool. Well, I think that is going to wrap up us doing this for the first time. I thought it went really well.
I think Scoops and Navarro has a future.
I think we'll try and do this earlier going forward. The chat system wasn't built to kind of do this YouTube stuff. So if you're watching on the front page, it probably looks a little weird. It was kind of embedding the video a little strangely, and then also the way we put it into the system is a little bit odd. So we kind of had to run through those kinks, and then also my mom had a cleaning lady coming through this morning, so all sorts of unexpected things happening. But appreciate everyone tuning in, and so you'll be in the office next week, right?
I will be in the office next week. I will, be sitting in on whatever the hell they need me to sit in on, and then I'm going back home, and then I'm going to SummerSlam after that. I'm going to go fucking do another. So basically, I'm flying to San Francisco for a week, then flying back to New York, then flying to Los Angeles for 3 days, then flying home again. So that's my next 2 weeks.
All right. Well, that is intense, but that after you are back from that journey, we'll pick this up again. So in the future, we'll hope to have guests, and because of the way the Hangouts work, maybe we will try and experiment again with having members of the community come in and hang out for a little bit. So we'll see how that stuff goes as it goes along. But all right, well, I guess we should go back to doing other stuff, Alex.
Yes, I will go back to posting trailers of games that have boobs in them.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later, dude.